Matt, nice to see you again, brother. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely, brother.
Okay, let's get right to it. What do you make of what MTG's doing? You took so much heat when you did it to McCarthy, but McCarthy was bringing up bills and siding with Democrats and blowing our money like a drunken airman on vacation. I'm not allowed to say sailor anymore because I'm an Air Force guy and the Navy guys got mad at me. So what's different now? Do you think it's a similar situation where Johnson's not listening to the America First folks and the American people and what Marjorie did is right, or did she jump the gun too quick? What's Matt Gaetz saying?
The fundamental difference is the size of the majority. When I filed the motion to vacate against Kevin McCarthy, we had a 4-seat majority, and I came on this program. I answered your tough questions about that, and I promised the American people that the consequence of my action would not be a Democrat Speaker of the House. I had carefully monitored this. I had talked to each and every member, and I didn't think that would be the case. As I sit here with you today, I could not make the same promise, and thus I cannot support a motion to vacate. I can think of 2 or 3 members of our House majority, some of whom used to be Democrats, who might actually be willing to take a position for themselves in exchange for voting for Hakeem Jeffries for House Speaker. That risk would put on the table another version of Biden's massive spend. I mean, you thought this minibus was bad, and it was, and I voted no. They'll do another American rescue plan that will actually need a rescue from. So I won't be supporting a motion to vacate. I'm trying to help Mike Johnson be the best speaker he can be. He is going to be our speaker now to the election, and for all of his flaws, he doesn't lie, which means we can work with him regarding our goals. My goal is to secure our border, not to be spending a bunch of money in Ukraine, not to be borrowing money from China to go and loan it to Ukraine. That seems crazy to me. And while I appreciate the fact that Mike Johnson is trying to find more nuanced ways to do what he wants to do, there are not enough Russian assets to liquidate to be able to fund what they want. You're talking about maybe a few $100 million in cash liquidatable assets here, whereas it's a $20 billion number they want to send to Ukraine.
Yeah, when he's saying innovations, and I remember all this talk after you moved quickly to vacate Mr. McCarthy, there were these new rules, right?
Right.
Y'all were going to get 72 hours to read all bills. I thought these things were going to be broken down into simple, more line item type voting things, not big omnibus budget deals like this minibus. And I thought we had heard from Johnson early last year when he got this seat that if there was big spending in Ukraine and elsewhere, that those would be individual items. So what is he talking about? We're going to find innovative ways to still fund Ukraine, because this came over the weekend where he sounds more like he's on board with sending millions, possibly billions more. So what changed in those few months with Mike?
The difference is I don't think he wants to lash these things together like the Senate did. Okay. Now, whether we're considering Ukraine in one vote with Israel or on its own, I'm very likely a no vote because I think it risks some sort of escalatory accident that could end up melting the globe in some nuclear exchange between the United States and Russia. That risk is too high for me, and I think we have to be pragmatic about that. I think that you had Mitch McConnell's desire to use all of our sympathy for Israel in this great time of strife to try to muscle Ukraine across the line when there was insufficient support for that. It's disappointing that we have gotten rid of the 72-hour rule to read bills. But you know why we got rid of it, Dan? Because the members wanted to waive it. Like, I put it in the rule book, but members wanted to waive that rule because the people who voted for that trash piece of legislation didn't want the details out to the American people. They didn't want you to know that there was millions of dollars, $15 million that the American taxpayer paid to fund Egyptian students going to college in Egypt. They didn't want you to know that they're funded all these NGOs that are seducing the invasion.
Because like I said, I remember you putting that in as one of the rules.
It's on the books, but any given day in the House of Representatives, if 2/3 of the members stand up and say, we hereby waive the rules, then it's like martial law. They automatically go away. And 2/3 of the overall membership didn't want 72 hours to read the bill because they didn't want the American people to read the bill. Because it wasn't about what the ultimate consequence was for the country. If people got their little pork barrel projects in, if they got their funding in for their community centers or their unique agenda items, then they would forsake the broader consequences that we must all endure. Here's what I've decided. We cannot fix the country with the people we currently have in Washington.
No kidding.
Republican or Democrat. And the reason I'm here in California is I've been traveling all over this country, from Virginia to Utah, out here to California, to try to raise an army of patriots who actually want to go and serve the people. Not the donors, not the foreign interests abroad, but the people of their district and of this country. And if we don't do that, if we don't defeat some incumbents in primaries, if we don't fill these open seats that have been created because we've gotten rid of the cushy life in Washington, then we will miss the opportunity to seize the Trump presidency. President Trump is going to lay out a vision, and he's going to have a lot of energy behind that vision, but we can't have the Mitch McConnells and the Paul Ryans
We need a Senate and a House that are America first. And looking at that minibus vote, there was only, 130 of you, 134 that actually said no. The rest of the Republicans sided with all the Democrats and pushed that garbage through. Once again, putting us further in debt and kicking the can down the road. So let's talk about the razor-thin majority we have and why it's so important come November to get you and the other America First and Freedom Caucus folks more backup. Because we can't count on the Ken Bucks and these folks that are retiring early and screwing over the country. Notice I didn't say party, screwing over we the people. So how are we going to, one, hold on to the majority through next January, because now we're down to one, and let's talk about how we get out and get more of those America First folks elected, Matt.
Well, first things first, preserving this majority when you had people like Kevin McCarthy and Ken Buck and Mike Gallagher walk off the job. 3 people walk off the job in a 4-seat majority. It's tough. Now,
Who paid them off, Matt?
Well, that's the concern we have with anyone that is leaving at this time. Let me be clear. There is an organized effort by the political left right now to buy people off to quit, and then also to try to compromise people. I know of circumstances right now where people are being told, you should quit or else. Some embarrassing information might come out. We might lie about you and say things that are false. They're actually trying to steal the majority that the people gave to the Republican Party and convert it to the Democratic Party, and they should not have enablers and co-conspirators in our movement willing to facilitate that. I think, that we've got to be real resilient about that, and we should judge harshly those who leave service to go get some high-paying job, if that, in fact, turns out to be the case. We all knew what these jobs were. It's not like it's a surprise that when you run, it's a 2-year job. And if you sign up for the military and you walk off, that's AWOL. I guess only the Secretary of Defense can get away with that, right?
Yeah, we know that one.
But in Congress, we should similarly view that with great concern. And when it comes to growing the majority,
yes,
then look, we have to get the right candidates in the primaries. I'm tired of hearing that somebody's more electable, even though they have milquetoast views and will never fight for the people. We have to have folks who, when they get to Washington, will resist the seduction of the lobbyists and the special interests and the corruption and all of the trappings of that magical place. And if we do that, I think we can really marshal the energy of the Trump presidency into the policy reforms on the budget, on the bureaucracy, and on the border. We do those 3 things, the budget, the bureaucracy, and the border. We rein those in, we will do great service to the country, but it's not going to happen if Republican voters in primaries do not do their part as well. They have to be discerning about these candidates. And you know what? Sometimes it's not about who has the most money and the slickest ads.
No.
It's about making a judgment about who will fight for you.
That's the key. I mean, if we go back to 2016, Hillary and the Democrats outspent Trump, 3-1?
Yep.
And he smoked her. And how many races can you and I sit here, if we had the time, and go over, whether they're, a local state race or a congressional race, where they said, that guy's not electable because he's America First. He says he's for Trump. This guy's been a politician for 20 years. He's got 3 times in his war chest. We got to beat the Democrats, so vote for this guy who, as you put it so kindly, is milquetoast, who's going to go there and do exactly what the damn uniparty tells him to do, which is where and how we got to where we're at today, where you come and get a minibus, and we can't even stop a minibus from getting past.
No, I mean, we're funding our own invasion.
Right.
They're telling us,
yeah,
they're telling us that because we reduced the NGO funding by 20%, that's some sort of win. You and I both know it's the U.S. taxpayers putting funds into the NGOs that lead to the cell phones, the cash payments, the child care, the transportation, the health care, you name it,
You're paying
for people who are coming across the country illegally. And we have to be willing to say no. See, politicians love to say yes. When you say yes, people pat you on the back, you're told that makes you stronger. But actually, our strength will come saying no to the Biden regime over the next few days. And that is my advice to Speaker Johnson on Ukraine. We have to say no if the conditions are not clear. And Here's one question we have to be able to answer. What are we trying to win in Ukraine? I want to hear Zelensky and Mike Johnson and whoever else, Biden, whoever else, tell me when we can stop the killing and stop the war. Do we have to go and repatriate Crimea to Ukraine, where they had a referendum and
Nobody's
the people were
talking
raising
about a ceasefire.
Russian flags?
Nobody is. They're talking about a ceasefire with Gaza and Israel, but nobody from the Biden regime, and I don't hear any Democrats in D.C.
Sure, no.
and some of your colleagues, the Rhino ones, nobody is saying, hey, why aren't we pushing Zelensky and Putin's people to get back to the table like they were in Istanbul, Turkey 18 months ago and get a damn ceasefire? They're giving me the hard rap. 20, 30 seconds left, Matt. Do the call to action for my viewers on what we need to do from now through November to make sure we can take the House and the Senate with America first folks like you.
Great point. And we right now are in the key time. We are in the center cut of the primary election cycle. It runs really from now through the end of August. And so all over the country, you're going to have viewers that are going to be participating in these primary contests. Maybe it's a big Senate race in Utah where we really like Trent Staggs against a Rhino, John Curtis. Maybe it's a big House runoff like in Texas where Brandon Herrera is doing great work to take out pro-amnesty Tony Gonzalez, Republican congressman.
Yes, needs to happen.
So if you go to mattgaetz.com, you'll be able to follow our work, sign up for our newsletter. You'll see where I'm going around the country to rally patriots and to get the kind of support we need to the people who will help us save this great country.
Love it. Matt, as always, man, thank you so much. Keep fighting. That's what we call you, a firebrand and a Freedom Caucus America First guy. If I was in there with you, you know I'd be right alongside of you, but I think they would have thrown me out of that house long ago. So thanks for the visit. Enjoy your stay in Cali before you head back to Florida. We were just there last week. Lovely state.
I hope
Great
you spent
people.
all your money in Florida.
We spent a lot.
Good.
We spent a lot of money in Florida. So
we like
there we
hearing
go.
it.
We gave some taxes. Thank you, brother.